So what I'm about to show you next is going to make you think of the Jeff Epstein case in a whole different light. You know, the case where a man allegedly hung himself in a cell where former prisoners said was impossible to do. He broke his hyoid bone, he broke his cervical bones. That's consistent with strangulation, as a matter of fact. You know, the guy who hung himself on a day where the cameras malfunctioned. A guy who hung himself just days after saying that people were trying to kill him. This is reported by mainstream news. That case, it's going to make you think of that case in a whole different light. It's going to make you think of Alex Jones probably in a whole different light, probably less crazy. You're probably going to think that maybe he's less crazy than people say that he is. It's going to make you think of the Pizzagate case in a whole different light. I'm not saying that everything about that case was real, but just knowing what our CIA has been involved in the past, knowing what the quote-unquote deep state has been involved in the past, it's not crazy to think that there might be something to that particular story. Now, what I'm about to show you is not a conspiracy theory. What I'm about to show you is not Alex Jones level conspiracy nonsense. What I'm about to show you is actually documents coming directly from the verified FBI Twitter account, and the mainstream media is not talking about this case at all. What I'm referring to is the Finders case, or better known as the Finders Keepers case, which I think brings a lot more context to it. So we're going to get into this story. Before we do, I just want to thank this video sponsor, you guys. Check the links in the description for Subscribestar and Patreon. This entire channel has been demonetized, and if we can get a small percentage of you over to either Subscribestar or Patreon for the cost of a cup of coffee a month, we would replace the demonetization this channel has experienced. You can also get hours of Patreon-only and Subscribestar-only content, so check the links in the description below. So here we go. As I've said, this comes directly from the verified official Twitter account of the FBI. They released this vault of declassified documents about the Finders Keepers story. So if you want to get a rundown of this entire story, there's a book on Amazon. It's only 20 pages long, and it's only 99 cents. And he goes through this entire story in this 20-page book, and he talks about all the relevant facts. And he does allude to possibly why the deep state is attacking Trump so much. He says that it could be because Trump is actually going after the pedophile elite, right? And this is actually true, because I've been over recent stories in the past on my second channel, where I've shown you all these arrests that are taking place. There have been many different arrests that have taken place that the mainstream media is not covering, where people with either like major caches of child porn on their computers have been found out and arrested. We're talking hundreds upon hundreds of pedophiles who have been arrested under the Trump administration alone. And this could be partly, I would say, the reason for the deep state attacking Trump or going after Trump so much. And he goes through this in this 20-page book. The entire book is about this story, the Finders Keepers, but let's read a little bit from this book. I'm not going to give away the whole book because obviously this guy wants you to go and get his book for 99 cents. Little is known or been written about an enormously significant event that took place just over 3 decades ago involving a bizarre cult called the Finders Keepers. This presentation will examine all available documented evidence that includes recent, never-before-released public records from the police and U.S. Customs investigations. Other than a couple conspicuous mainstream articles from February 1987 and a final follow-up in 1994, the critical importance of this mysterious group, sometimes called Finders Keepers, which is very dark and grim, and its operations have largely been lost to the public, despite the name Finders Keepers denoting procurers or finders of children kept as pedophile slaves. The CIA front, the trafficked children for the elite, has by careful design remained an obscure, strange footnote in history, but this gross omission conveniently disregards the compelling evidence acting as tangible proof that the Finders was a CIA-front organization caught in the act of abducting and moving very young children across both U.S. state lines as well as international borders, functionally serving as a first conduit link to the highly organized child sex slave trafficking pipeline controlled by the most powerful evildoers on Earth. And it's no accident that the scandal centered in Washington, D.C. and was operating at the exact time and place as the very much related Franklin scandal occurring throughout the Reagan-Bush years of the 1980s. So if you don't know what the Franklin scandal is, I, again, implore you to pick up the book called The Franklin Scandal, which is a very good book. I'm going to talk about that later. Now, the AP, the Associated Press, wrote this article back in 1993. And once again, this sounds crazy, right? This story sounds crazy if you're tuning into some obscure YouTube channel like this one, because YouTube has completely buried this channel. Views are down 50%, even though watch time is up like 80%. Recommendations are down 50%. Every analytic essentially is down here on this channel because YouTube has completely hidden this channel. But if you're just stumbling across this channel and you tune in and you're like halfway through for some reason, it sounds crazy, but once again, this all comes from the FBI official Twitter account that just got released under the Trump administration. And this actually goes hand in hand with a couple of operations that have occurred under the Trump administration. This one here, I think, was called Operation Darknet. It resulted in 337 worldwide being arrested, and this was just published in October 16th of 2019. This one was a big one. I went over this on my second channel, link in the description. More than 2,300 pedophiles have been arrested in the U.S. after Operation Broken Heart under Trump. And then this one here, these are just 3 of like 25 different operations that I've talked about. This resulted, I think, in arrests from other countries. I think 50 kids were rescued. I believe this was called Operation Black Wrist, if I'm not mistaken. So back to this article here. Justice Department looking at alleged CIA ties to commune. This was written back from the Associated Press in December 17th, 1993. It says the Justice Department said Friday it is investigating allegations that the CIA used a front company run by a commune to train agency employers, and that the CIA blocked investigation of the group. The CIA blocked the investigation of the group because it was the CIA who was running a sex trafficking cult that partook in satanic rituals. I'm not even joking. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is actually real, and we're going to show you that from the FBI files that were released from the FBI. It sounds like a movie, but this is actually happening right now today. As I've said, it's going to make you think of Pizzagate differently. It's going to make you think of Jeff Epstein differently and how he was offed and how much they actually had to pay people to off him. It's going to make you think of Alex Jones differently. It's going to make you think of a lot of things differently. It's going to make you think of what's going on. What is the deep state doing? Why are they trying so hard to take Trump out of office? What is going on in Washington, D.C.? Why do I go to Washington, D.C. and feel like my soul is being ripped out of my chest every time I land in Washington, D.C.? It's the same feeling that you get when you first go to like Las Vegas, where you just feel disgusting and you just can feel the degeneracy in the air. Let's go to this article here. This is from the Epoch Times. As I've said before, the mainstream media isn't talking about this. You have to find alternative media outlets talking about this. This is one of the reasons why they want to shut us down so much here. The FBI releases information on the Finders, a secretive group accused of child sex abuse. Now, if we want to just run through the brief breakdown of this here, I have this here. This is a summary for those who are about to dig through the whole file on the Finders group, a cult which police stumbled on, which seemed to be trafficking children. The FBI was specifically trying to look into what role U.S. intelligence was playing in the group. One page says an FBI agent found computers of the Finders, which contained a lot of the information on how to acquire children for unspecified purposes. The quoted phrase is underlined with a question mark by somebody. It adds the methods were impregnation of females in the group, buying, trading, and kidnapping children. Then as it went out there were a whole load of redactions. Notice the prosecutors declined prosecution, probably after they were told the group belonged to intelligence, like Epstein. Later, it says a police sergeant who was involved and subsequently denied was told by a redacted term, presumably job descriptor from the syntax like CIA officer, to back off because of a redacted reason. The subsequent redaction, in parentheses, could have looked like allegedly it was a CIA operation. There were descriptions of a sizable tunnel complex under what it appears was a finder's facility set up as a school similar to Epstein Island, complete with plastic plates that had pentagrams drawn on them and lots of animal bones. page 49 of the FBI vault. Animal bones, pentagrams on plates in the school. The group's location had previously involved been involved in an investigation into the group getting classified maps of tunnels and sewer systems of D.C., page 52. That might have been the only way to do kidnappings and other crimes in D.C. and avoid surveillance back then. What does this make you think of? An underground tunnel system in D.C.? This is in the actual FBI vault, released by the verified account from the FBI. What does that make you think of? Basements in D.C.? Does that make you think of, like, basements in D.C.? Does that make you think of tunnels in D.C.? For those of you who are saying that there's a logical explanation to this, and you're just like, oh, this is ridiculous, this is fake news, this is a conspiracy theory, I implore you to read the FBI files yourself. Go and read Joachim Hagopian's book. Go and read the book that quotes FBI documents. Go and read the CIA documents that were released on this. Go and read the Associated Press report. Go and read the Epoch Times report. Listen to what I'm about to tell you next. Just keep listening. It goes on. It says another page notes, U.S. Customs altered how it was organized, folding the child pornography division into another, while it assured everyone it would not affect arrest rates. But after it did, arrest rates dropped dramatically, page 47. It feels like an agent tossed this page in here with the finder's file for a reason. Page 53 notes that a redaction, which looks like CIA contacted the PD and ordered that everything about the finders be classified secret or restricted, and that nothing be turned over to the FBI. It also notes children were turned over to people claiming to be their parents, which would indicate it was done without confirming who they were. The finders also gathered information for people or companies. Page 58 of the FBI vault. Over one 21-year CIA officer named Isabel Petty was a former member of the group, page 66. She had supposedly died, page 68. She may have been one of the 3 founding members, given there is a redaction which indicates it began as a women's networking service, and one of the 3 female founders' names was redacted later, page 288. And one conclusion of the PD investigation was that the finders was a CIA operation, page 67. The group's leaders at one point was a male named Marion David Petty, though I do not know his relation to Isabel. Although a member of the group had traveled to prohibited countries in a way only CIA could have facilitated, page 68, was a witness made allegations of child abuse, satanic worship, and computer chips being implanted in children's heads, and that it went to the highest levels of government and nobody could be trusted, page 212. Later, it contains a document asking for search records for a company called Advanced Cybernetic Technology and General Scientific Cooperation, indicating that the finders may have been trying to infiltrate these companies. And I wonder if they were trying to do some sort of research project on kids, page 307. Finders had traveled to Moscow, North Korea, and North Vietnam and from the late 1950s to the 1970s, and a local PD report was classified and not available to the FBI, page 227. The initial finders' children, who police found, stated that they were on their way to Mexico, page 243. Although heavily redacted when they did a raid, one special agent saw certain documents that would have been important but was redacted, and they disappeared between the execution of the warrants and the processing of evidence. So one or more law enforcement involved in the warrant execution were there scoping up on any problematic items or documents and disappearing them on the spot, page 264 to 265. That is the secret society, and even tight-knit groups, tightly knit groups with a purpose that they are supposed to be all dedicated to, together like cops and FBI agents, have them infiltrated among the ranks and working against their organizations, despite the very real consequences which would arise if they were uncovered. So let's go to a couple of documents here. This is from First Amendment for All, at Amendment All on Twitter. Check out their Twitter account before they get banned. Here's a brief breakdown. This is from the leaked documents that were leaked by the FBI. So here's one. It says, the Finders is a CIA front group established in the 1960s. This is from the FBI. Members are specially trained government kidnappers with top clearance and protection in their assigned task of stealing children, torturing and sexually abusing them, sometimes involving them in satanic orgies, bloody rituals, and murder of other children with the slaughter of animals. The Finders are known sexual degenerates who use a fleet of unmarked cars to grab targeted children from parks and schoolyards, many times using their own children members I think that says members, as decoys. They lure the innocent children away from the crowd close to their vans. The adults inside grab the children, drug them, and transport them to a series of safe houses where they await their ill-fated end. They are then used in ceremonies. The children are either murdered or sacrificed for blood, for body parts, or they are sold as sex slaves, auctioned off at various locations in the northern hemisphere. In the past, they have been auctioned off near Las Vegas, Nevada. Las Vegas. What occurred in Las Vegas recently that we really didn't find out why? We didn't see any videos come out about the man entering into the hotel with all of his, it's the 70-something, what is he, like 70-something-year-old man, 60-something-year-old man entering the hotels with about 65 duffel bags that are 100 pounds each. We didn't see any videos come out about that. I wonder why. We didn't see a motive come out about that. I wonder why. I wonder why the FBI and the CIA were kind of keeping that under wraps there. And also, Toronto, Canada, Lincoln, Nebraska, Michigan, and Houston, Texas. Marion David Petty, the leader of the cult, is an identified pedophile, homosexual, and CIA officer. His son was a former employee of a CIA proprietary firm, Air America, which was notorious for smuggling drugs, destined for the United States out of the Golden Triangle into Saigon during the Vietnam War. Let's read a little bit further here. Let's see what this says here. It says, the finders, during their investigation at McMartin Preschool, the FBI uncovered underground hand-dug tunnels. That's kind of what we saw from that other report that we went over. It says that there were over 100 animal bones alongside 2,000 artifacts in this classroom, where there were no doorknobs, only a deadlock bolt. They observed substantial amount of computer equipment and documents containing information for obtaining children for unspecified purposes. This is all in that report, and even worse than that, the oldest of the 6 children abducted by 2 men from the Finders Keepers described the Finders Keepers. That's how you need to refer to this as. Described the reason for the trip as a means to wean them off their mothers. To wean them off their mothers. It was part of the satanic panic in the 1980s. And basically, I think that people are coming out and trying to say, and I did see this Styx video that says, it doesn't justify the satanic panic of the 1980s. It kind of does. When you consider the fact that government at the highest levels were participating in satanic rituals with children, it kind of actually does justify the satanic panic of the 1980s. It kind of actually does justify whatever comes next to people who are satanic. So let's think about it like this. If we have people at the highest levels of government working with the elites, a lot of people speculate that Jeff Epstein was like part of intelligence. This is how he made his money, because no one knows how he made his billions upon billions of dollars. He was given mansions by other elites. If they are worshiping the devil, if they are worshiping Satan at the highest levels of government, the highest levels of media, of elitism, then we should be doing the opposite. You should be taking your family to church. You should be worshiping Jesus Christ, who is King, who is our Lord and Savior. You should be reading the Bible. You should be at the very least, getting on your knees every single night and praying. If you have people at the highest levels of government who know everything that there is to know, who are worshiping Satan and doing satanic rituals with goats and children, then you should do the opposite of that. You should worship Jesus Christ, who is King. As I said, a lot of people speculate that Jeff Epstein was part of this whole this intelligence thing, right? That he was providing children to many elites around the world. His lawyer, another Jewish person, billionaire, Alan Dershowitz, who was defending Jeff Epstein, another Jewish billionaire, was going to have a mock trial defending child sex traffickers. This is what he was going to do. He's going to have a mock trial, basically a practice run, defending child sex traffickers just in case Jeff Epstein probably, and this is my assumption, he was doing this just in case Jeff Epstein did finally talk and they had him, right? Before he suicided. He canceled that mock trial, Alan Dershowitz, after Jeff Epstein suicided. So there you go. So I have a special quote that I've read before to go over today, and this is Matthew 18:6. Matthew 18:6. But whoever causes one of these little ones, children, who believe in me to sin, It would be better for him if a millstone were hung around his neck and he were drowned in the depth of the sea. This is from Matthew 18:6. Make sure to take your family to church this weekend. If I was, say, dictator of a country, if I ever became president of the United States of America, I would probably have Matthew 6 printed on a very large billboard behind me as I ordered the public hanging of anyone who is ever convicted of doing things like this: child sex trafficking, pedophilia, rape, things like this. This is what I would do. We'll have to see if that future is going to come to fruition anytime soon. Videos are posted every single day here about breaking news topics, so make sure you hit the bell button if you haven't already so that you are notified. Check the description for links to Patreon and PayPal, and of course follow me on Gab, Minds, BitChute, and Instagram. Links in the description as well. And of course these videos only go so far, so be sure to share with family and friends.